Hi guys, Therese Coffey, the Environment Secretary, was challenged by Labour's Jim McMahon over the government's indifference to companies that have been pumping raw sewage into the sea and English waterways. Jim did a wonderful job here of listing off the failings of Coffey and her department when it came to holding the private water companies to account, be it with fines, the amount of those fines, and if they would actually be issued. But what was Therese Coffey's response? She blamed Labour.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Environment Secretary first said it wasn't a priority to meet with water bosses, and then said it was, and that she really did care, or words to that effect. Then she said she'd come forward with a plan and big fines, but then no plans and no fines. But then there would be a plan, but the water companies will do it and not the government. And there might be fines, but only if the water companies agree to it. And now we discover that Ofwat have watered down the very rules intended to hold the water companies to account, actively removing any reference to the consideration on local communities and local economies. So can I ask her at this point, on a scale of 1 to 10, how does she rate her own government's record on ending the Tory sewage scandal?
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have great confidence in my Minister, the Honourable Member for Taunton, and that is why, and she continues to meet water companies, as have I. What I would say to the honourable gentleman, if he goes back and looks at the record of the Labour government, they failed to actually deal with the urban wastewater initiatives. European Commission contacted them, took action against them, took the Labour government to court for failing to deal with sewage.
What a response! The Labour government were taken to court by the European Commission for failing to deal... Okay, we're talking about something that happened before 2010. Okay, but let's take that on face value. So the UK government was taken to court by the European Commission. Now what? Well, we're free to... because we're no longer a member of the European Union, we can allow these companies to do whatever the hell they want. So we don't actually have to issue fines. The European Union are not going to ask us to make sure that the water is clean. We can allow these companies to pump raw sewage into waterways. Isn't that a wonderful Brexit benefit? Here we finally found a Brexit benefit. Water companies, private water companies in England, and I think Wales, but principally in England, are allowed now to pump raw sewage into rivers and lakes and the sea. That's the Brexit benefit. Because before, if they did it, the government would face a fine by the European Commission. This is the Brexiteer finding a Brexit benefit. More raw sewage. Wonderful. And no consequences for these companies, because the government is just going to turn a blind eye. Or meet with the companies and say, please don't do it. Well, we'd like to. Okay. Are you going to fine us? Well, do you want to be fined? No. Okay.
So that is what had happened. That's the real history. And then when the Conservatives and the coalition government came into power, we started working on leaks. We started making the strategic policy statements about. We started the monitoring.
We did what monitoring? What are you doing? You're doing nothing. The situation is worse than in 2010. How can you turn around and say, yeah, we're doing a better job when the situation is, I don't know how many times worse?
None of that happened under a Labour government. So he can spew out as much rubbish as he wants. But the reality is that the Labour government did nothing about it. This Conservative government is fixing it, making it harder, and that's what we will continue to do.
Is there a more arrogant Tory minister or Tory politician? I know Boris Johnson is pretty arrogant. Jacob Rees-Mogg is extremely arrogant. But I think Therese Coffey takes the cake here. She is one of, if not the most vile Tory minister ever. What happened was she met with these water companies, and the water companies seem to have agreed with her that they will continue as before. They blamed, there's these Victorian water, this Victorian water infrastructure that it'd be too expensive to fix. And the response from the Tories would be, well, yeah, we organised as a party our response that, well, there's nothing these companies can do because it's too expensive. They have made massive profits over the last number of years and have not invested those profits in fixing the infrastructure. And that has resulted in them, with their quick fix of just pumping raw sewage and other chemicals into the sea and into waterways. This should be nationalised immediately. This should be taken off these companies, and before that happens, CEOs of these companies should be arrested and put in prison. The government isn't even fining them. And when it came to fining, well, we're going to negotiate, well, we're going to speak to these companies and ask them if they'd like to be fined and how much they should be fined. Completely unacceptable. I don't know. It would be a wonderful day when she loses her seat. It'd be a wonderful day for Britain. It'd be a wonderful day for the environment. People will actually be able to, I hope a British government led by Labour will start cleaning this up. But people will actually be able to go to the beach again. People will actually be able to swim in the sea. People will actually be able to look at the water and not feel disgusted. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.